Good evening. Good evening, everybody. How are you? How are you fitting with the news of what's the pending doom of this week? How does it all feel with you? I've done a really silly thing this afternoon and sat and watched a documentary about Martin Luther King and just sat and blubbed my eyes out. He's always been a hero of mine for what he did, but watching it all again, I read about it when I was doing my psychology degree. I studied him. But watching a documentary, how sad. Anyway, good evening. And for those of you that don't know me, if anybody's joining for the first time, I am Mandy Nicholson, and I am a creative genius consultant, artist, and author. And I help innovative female entrepreneurs to launch, grow, and scale their creative business and make more money. But tonight, I'm going into a month this month of revisiting and retelling probably the most difficult time of my life in order to help you. Now, I did this last year for the first time ever and told the story of how I lost everything, went from having everything to losing everything. And I did it in a very specific way. And I wanted to approach it in a really different way, in a warmer way this year, so that you can really understand what happened and what can happen to you if you are not careful, shall we say. So if you're watching live, hashtag live and say hi. If you're on my personal profile watching this, I won't be able to see your comments, so I won't be able to respond. If you're watching on replay, hashtag replay. Tell me where you're watching from. That would be great. So tonight, I'm going to talk to you about how your money mindset can set you up for failure. Hi, I've got a hi there from Twitter. That's really nice. How your money mindset can set you up for failure. And this is what's happened. This is what happened to me. I'm talking to you directly from experience. And once I've finished kind of talking about it, I'm going to read to you the first chapter of my book. Next week, I'm going to read chapter 2, then chapter 3, then chapter 4. So that's what's going to happen over the month, just to give you a feel of how I took what happened to me and told it as a story in order to help other people. So 11 years ago now, it's such a long time and it's gone so fast. I was in perfect land. Let me just describe it as that. I was a senior manager managing a multi-million-pound business with a global company. I'd had a really successful 25-year career in retail, working for multiple global companies, headhunted twice, really successful. So I lived in a beautiful home and was married and had 2 kids, 2 dogs, the perfect nuclear family. And one day, and this is how you're going to hear it in the book, one day something happened and it triggered a series of unfortunate events for me. And in 12 months, I ended up losing everything except for my children and my dogs. Now, what I want to talk to you about as part of that story tonight was why it all tumbled and went so quickly for me. Because this could happen to any one of you at any time if you are not really prepared and really work on your money mindset. Now, I had everything. I had so much money. I had a 6-figure career, company car, health insurance, dental insurance, you name it. I didn't really have to think about money. We enjoyed a really good life. We had 2 cars and there was always plenty of money. But I didn't have a good money mindset. I had not been brought up in an environment where money was ever spoken about in any other way than money doesn't grow on trees. And do you think I'm made of money? All those things that we hear as we are growing up. Now, what I've learned since is that you formulate your money mindset at around 7 years old. So whatever you're hearing from your parents and your grandparents and the network that surrounds you from a very young age is forming your money mindset going into life. Now, my dad worked in Saudi Arabia for the big oil companies, and he had wads of money. He would come home with rolls of £50 notes. And if we needed bus fare, we asked him on the first day home because he had no change, and he would just give you a £50 note. So money was, we were brought up in our younger days as money was sparse. And then when my dad went to work in Saudi Arabia, money wasn't sparse anymore. We had plenty of money. So we went from one mindset to another. So we went from thinking money was sparse to having lots of it and not having to want for anything, which gave me a really flippant attitude to money when I went out into the world. And I don't think we're educated through school. In fact, I know we're not. I wasn't educated through school about money. I wasn't getting an education at home about money. It was just there. So as you move out into the big wide world and you look at going to university, which I did, and having to have a job to pay for things, and it changes your perspective. So I wasn't very sensible with money. So when I had it, I would just spend it because that's what my parents did. I didn't think to do anything other than that if money came to me. And I always had a good job, even though I left art college and couldn't get a job in the creative space. I always had a good job. So my money mindset then was always, well, I've got it, I'll spend it. And I never really did anything sensible with it. So when this series of unfortunate events happened to me, I was ill prepared. I did not have a bank of savings. I did not have stacks of money here, there, and everywhere. I didn't have stocks and shares. I didn't have ISAs. I didn't have anything. We just got money and spent it, had holidays, had cars, bought things for cash, but really didn't do anything for the longer term with my money. Or with our money. Well, it was my money because my husband didn't work and I was the main earner. So when this series of unfortunate events happened, I was really, really ill prepared. And this is why I lost everything. The only thing I was able to retain was my pension because I couldn't touch it and nobody else could touch it. So what I wanted to talk about tonight is how you think about money now, because we've had massive change this year. And there are redundancies happening at a rate of 1 in 3. There are people who are now being furloughed again that are worried about their jobs. There have been businesses closed. There has been a lot of change this year. The one place that hasn't closed is the internet. If you're thinking about an internet business, this definitely is the time, particularly if you're a creative, because the creative products and services on the internet have had the biggest boom of all. So there are still positives in the economy right now, but there's also a lot of fear. Now, if you're a person like me that hasn't had a great education in money, like I was, should I say, I've learned a lot since then. We'll talk about that in the coming weeks. If you are like me and you've not really had a great education in money and you are not managing not only your money, but your attitude towards money, then you could find yourself in really difficult circumstances at the moment or in the next few months. Christmas might be something that's quite scary for you. Maybe things are already hard for you. So I don't want to preach to those who haven't got anything at the moment, but what I will say is there is always opportunity. I completely transformed my money mindset, but it took a lot of hard work. I changed the way I respected my money. I changed the way that I looked at my money, and I changed the way that I balanced and looked at my life over the last 11 years to the point where I was able to buy my house for cash last year. Now that's a huge turnaround in 10 years, huge turnaround to go from having nothing and I lost everything to being able to buy your house for cash. Now that's not me bragging. That's me telling you, those are the lessons that I learned in the last 10 years. I learned, first of all, that I needed to respect every penny that came into my life, to know where it was coming from, to understand how I could create more of it, and then to know where to put it, to have a standard of living that was at one level, my ducks in a row level, and then be able to invest sensibly and realistically with any spare cash. So any disposable income that I had. Now that took a lot of learning, more learning than I can impart to you in just a few short minutes on a live on a Tuesday night. But over the next 4 weeks, I hope to take you through a bit of a journey with how I was able to change my mindset and turn my life around. Turn it around so that actually, since I bought this house and all the time into getting up there, that I have actually been able to manage my money really, really well. And the current status is that I own my home, obviously. I have a pension. Both of my children have pensions. I have stocks and shares ISAs. My kids have stocks and shares ISAs. They've got savings bonds. I have learned so much over the last 11 years. And it's actually really quite easy to learn it. It's not a difficult thing to do, but it starts with you. You deciding that you need to work on your money mindset. That's step one. I need to do something because I don't have a backup plan. I need to do something because I am not managing my money well at the moment. I need to do something because COVID has caused me problems at the moment and I need to be better prepared. So the first step is to actually make a decision to make change happen in your life. And my very first step, and this is where I'm going to start. I always start with this when I'm talking about money mindset, and I do a lot of speaking about money mindset because of these lessons that I've learned. And I always start with the number one place that you should start, and that's forgiveness. Forgiving yourself for not having the knowledge, forgiving yourself for getting into that situation, forgiving other people that were part of whatever your education has been or whatever your current situation is. Forgiveness is the first step. It's so important. Honestly, I can't tell you how important it is, because once you've released all of that negative energy, which you're holding on to, when you are blaming yourself or blaming somebody else, it's negative energy. And until you release that, you can't actually move forward with anything, particularly money, because there'll be lots of things in there. The money doesn't grow on trees. We're not made of money. All of that goes on in your early years, if you've experienced that. And on the other side of that, the complete lack of respect of money, where people are throwing it at you. These are two things that can cause such a spiral during anybody's lifetime. But you can also turn it around in your lifetime. And I'll be exploring that over the next few weeks. Every Tuesday night on the live here, we'll be talking about more and more things, all the things that I learned over the last 10 years. So it starts with forgiveness. And the next step is gratitude, being grateful for everything that you have right now. So I ended up in a council house with £30 in my bank account and a crappy old car. And I had to get to the place of being grateful for the £30 in my bank, the council house and the car, and saying, you know what, I've got more than a lot of people have. How do I now change this? That's where I had to get to. And that's a big leap. It really is a big leap. So wherever you are now, if you've not got enough money and you've not got enough coming in, the first thing is make the decision to change it. And number two is get somebody that can help you. You know, there are lots of people that can help you out there. Find the right people, though. DM me if you need any advice, because I know so many people now. I have used all of their expertise over the last 10 years. I didn't do it all on my own. So what I'm going to do is start by reading you. I'm going to now read you chapter 1 of my book, which is called Crash. And it's dated the 4th of March, 2009. And this is where I start my story in the book, The Life I Won. So settle comfortably into your chairs. It's Jack and Ori time. So I will be reading. I won't be looking at you. As Mandy King awoke that morning, she knew that today was going to be another battle. Outside, it was gloomy. The air was thick, and when she emerged from her crumpled bed before the alarm even signaled 5 a.m., every single step felt sluggish. There were way too many 5 a.m.s in her working week. However, start the day she must. Being the main breadwinner, responsibility weighed heavy on her to provide for her family. But she couldn't help wondering how life had gone from facing every day with excitement and anticipation to dreading it. What seemed like yesterday, Mandy was flying high in a career that she had seemed to just fall into and enjoyed every second of. As a successful top executive in her company, she had broken through the misogyny and put female managers firmly in the picture. Never afraid to take on a challenge and embracing every problem as an opportunity, she had been a well-respected role model and change maker. Headhunted twice by global companies, she was really making a mark and earning a six-figure package. Every day had felt like an adventure, and the alarm clock was an unnecessary tool replaced by adrenaline, expectation, and achievement. Driving her onwards and upwards was her natural-born talent as a leader, motivating and inspiring others with ease and with a charisma in abundance. So why, on this dreary, dark, and ominous morning, did she feel like she had nothing to keep going for? It was so unlike her to feel this way. Her usual mindset was positive, forward-thinking, and filled with gratitude for all that she'd achieved. Her two beautiful children were her pride and joy, and she was lucky enough to have her husband at home so that they didn't have to consider placing her precious cargo into childcare. They lived in a stunning remote farmhouse with views that could have been painted by Turner, and had two dogs who brought real joy to them. She had it all. But today, gratitude seemed a long way away. Sometimes the fog feels too thick. But why? Oh well, she thought, just get up and do it anyway. So after a hot shower and a large coffee, Mandy kissed the children tenderly on their foreheads, walked the dogs, and slumped into her car to make the hour-long commute to work. Normally, she took in the natural beauty that surrounded her on her route to the motorway. However, today the trees seemed mocking and the sheep had turned their backs. The usual racing hares and frisky rabbits were in hiding, and even the cows seemed to be at the far side of the field. The whole world seemed to be shunning her in such an obvious way. Or was this all in her head? Why was her thinking so negative? Why could she not see the beauty or feel the gratitude today? What on earth was going on? All of a sudden, the main motorway was upon her and she hadn't even noticed. Quickly steering the car onto the slip road, she joined the carriageway. Hers was the only car on the road, as usual, a lone crusader on the path to the daily grind. There would be the occasional lorry and maybe a tractor, but other than that, she would be alone. Not even in the mood to turn on the radio and listen to music this morning. Normally something she loved and turned up loud, but not today. Travelling the motorway on autopilot, she failed to notice anything much at all. She had travelled this road every day for 7 years, even when pregnant and throwing up in a carrier bag every 10 minutes, always noticing the trees, the fields, the distant horizon where you could just make out the sea if you looked hard enough. But today, it was a grey road with a destination that there was a duty to reach in order to carry out a job that had to be done. Suddenly out of thin air, with no warning and like a majestic Pegasus bounding into view from a heavenly place, an enormous, beautiful stag was directly in front of her car. She saw beauty and could not erase it from this earth, so with lightning reflexes, jerked the steering wheel hard left. There you go. That's chapter 1. I hope you enjoyed listening to that. That was the start of my series of unfortunate events. I've fictionalized it slightly throughout the book and taking creative license, but you can listen to chapter 2 next week, which I'll be reading out during my live. And I'll also be covering next week further tips and suggestions and things that could help you right now with your money mindset and your money situation. So join me again next week. I will be delighted to see you. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, have a wonderful week. Bye for now.